You may have heard the claim that Israel has the most moral army in the world. This claim is repeated by Israeli government officials and their apologists, but does it stand up to scrutiny? Well, let's look at the facts. The Israeli army has an extensive and ongoing record of indiscriminate attacks on Palestinian civilians and flattening of entire neighborhoods, leading to thousands of civilian deaths. During Israel's 2006 war on Lebanon, an Israeli military commander was quoted saying this to the Israeli press: "What we did was insane and monstrous. We covered entire towns in cluster bombs." This was in reference to Israel dropping up to 4 million cluster submunitions all over South Lebanon, in the final days of the war when everybody understood that a ceasefire was imminent. Human Rights Watch notes that this bombing campaign was indiscriminate and left up to 1 million cluster munitions unexploded on the ground. For many years after the war, these cluster bombs continued to kill dozens of children in Lebanon and injure hundreds. The Israeli army also has a long history of using Palestinian civilians, including children, as human shields, with well over 1,000 cases documented since the year 2000. Now, after human rights groups objected to the practice, the Israeli Supreme Court banned it in 2005. But the Israeli defense establishment objected to that ruling. And while they lost the appeal and the use of Palestinian civilians as human shields remains technically illegal, the practice continues because Israel does not seriously punish soldiers who engage in it. In the case of soldiers who were caught using a Palestinian boy as a human shield in Gaza during Operation Cast Lead, Human Rights Watch described their symbolic punishment as inadequate and a slap on the wrist, and said that we can expect the practice to continue because Israel does not take it seriously. During the First Intifada, the Israeli army was carrying out orders to break the bones of Palestinian demonstrators who were protesting against Israel's illegal occupation of their country. More recently than that, they've even been caught on video shooting and killing unarmed demonstrators.
At the precise moment when Nawara was shot, CNN's camera was rolling, filming an Israeli soldier shooting his rifle at the Palestinians.
And if video evidence weren't compelling enough, Israeli soldiers have stepped forward with confessions about being encouraged to shoot at unarmed Palestinians.
אין כזה דבר אזרחי מבחינתנו. מבחינתנו, אנחנו מזהים מישהו, אנחנו פשוט יורים בו.
All of these crimes are documented and condemned by virtually every major human rights organization in the world, from Amnesty International to Human Rights Watch, and even to Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem. And then there is the abuse of Palestinian children in Israeli military detention. Children are arrested and prosecuted by the hundreds each year, the overwhelming majority of whom endure physical violence. They're often snatched in the middle of the night, denied access to their family, and are abused into producing forced confessions. No matter where you stand politically on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, this abuse of children is unconscionable, which is why Congresswoman Betty McCollum recently introduced H.R. 4391, the Promoting Human Rights by Ending Israeli Military Detention of Palestinian Children Act. That bill aims to prevent U.S. aid from supporting the detention and ill treatment of Palestinian children in Israeli military prisons. The case of Ahd Tamimi and her family is just the latest example for why this is so important. Only when Palestinian children are free from the so-called Most Moral Army's occupation of their land and abuse of their rights can they live normal lives like children everywhere else in the world.
أنا هسا يعني مش راح أقدر أفكر لبعيد كثير لأنه في الاحتلال بمنعني من إنه أحلم بأشياء كثير أعملها. لو ما كانش في احتلال كنت راح أكون لاعبة كرة قدم.